One of you guys actually made a really good statement saying that the moment that Gundogan and Christensen went off, Barcelona started to play a lot better. And I couldn't help by wondering and go back to watch this game a few times because that was a great statement actually, and we did play better. But welcome back to the channel, Kules, into the video where we're going to discuss Barcelona versus AC Milan, the second half tactics, and why Barcelona looked so different. As always, do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content only. Let's get right into it. I actually want to talk about a very small difference I noticed between the young guys and Christensen, right? And this is maybe why the movement was lacking because of Christensen. When Christensen dropped in between the centre backs, he was doing it to mainly get on the ball, and he would not rejoin midfield unless the ball is higher up the pitch. Then he would come back. But Bernal is different, man. That kid is so intelligent, you know. When he would drop to get on the ball, once he has released the ball from his position over here, he immediately joins the midfield, right? So now it looks like he's an option, and he actually draws the players away. And now Casado actually can come into that position and that space, and then he would switch the ball. This is a huge difference, guys. It's a huge difference because Bernal is influencing the play with his movement, because not only is he joining the back three right there, he's drawing players away from the ball. And this is the fluidity that Hansi Flick is going to need. And I hope that Christensen does not play in midfield. So that was actually a good shout for from one of you guys. Like over here, we can see Christensen clearly with his back turned. He's not even facing the players. He's just going to pass the ball. He doesn't even look like he's going to run into midfield to get on the ball. Like, seriously, look at how easy it is for him. It looks like he's like very calm, and this is maybe the ball circulation that we saw from Xavi. You know, I've never realized this actually. And look at this. You can see here Bernal is in between the center backs, you know, to actually get on the ball and pass the ball around, right? So he's doing his job of making a back three. But as soon as he's done passing the ball, he runs into midfield. And look now how closely these two guys have to come to Bernal. And now Dominguez can actually look for a different pass. He can either pass to Kunde, he can go back to the goalkeeper, but instead he finds Casado, and Casado can now switch the ball over to the right side. That's literally just two passes, guys. Two passes. I genuinely believe the big change for Barcelona playing so much better in the second half was the fact that the double pivot was there. And I'm not trying to bash Christensen here. He's just way too conservative. And I think this has been a common theme in the days of Xavi, where you had one person that was basically sitting and the other one that was moving around, right? Check in the days of Busquets and Frenkie de Jong, right? But with Hansi Flick, you know, and with these youngsters especially, you saw that, okay, we can agree that Bernal was the guy that was mostly deep, but Casado didn't stay high constantly. If Bernal went over here, Casado would then fill up the space, and then you would see him receiving the ball in between the lines and ultimately build up the play, right? And then you did see that he would also go higher, and then he would be like a second striker or second free aid, excuse me. So this is what I like, right? Especially the times when Casado had to cover these spaces, you know, be part of a back three. You saw that Bernal did stay in his pivot position, but he didn't stay there all the time. He did open up the space for the likes of Gundogan to come in, you know, and ultimately later on you would see that the left winger also came into the space right here, and therefore the fullback would go forward. So this is the difference, guys. It's the fluidity and the movement that Casado and Bernal basically brought to this Barcelona side. And I think these two should definitely be starters next season for Barcelona, especially in the pivot positions, because they are just absolutely amazing. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at Christensen here for an example, right? He's just receiving the ball, passing the ball, moving around, very conservative. And look at Casado. Casado is in the half space, right? At least a movement. You can see here how he's walking always, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm not bashing him. I'm just pointing in the differences between Bernal and Christensen with the partnership with Casado, right? You can see here he's walking. Like, Casado is always doing the movement. Casado is actually taking to heart what Flick is trying him or want him to do, right? But now look at this right here. You can see how deep Bernal is and actually coming to the ball. So that's the movement we're talking about. Look at his positioning right now. You can see he's running towards the ball, always moving with the ball. And look at where it's Casado now, and Bernal is much higher up the pitch. And look over here, you can see he's in the half space. So there's constantly moving. So it's going to be difficult to track this dude, right? Look how he's receiving the ball in that half space in between the lines. You would never see Christensen receive a ball right there. And this is the difference from the first half towards the second half, the movement. Something else that I wanted to mention was, especially in the second half, something that Flick changed was how wide these two were away from each other in the build-up phase, right? because when Barcelona would look to build to one side, you would see that the press actually came from all sorts, and the presence of this young man here was also did Barcelona the world of good, right? And then you could see that Casado would actually receive the ball in acres of space, and then he would be pressed either by Leao, or you would see Ruben come in, but then he would lay the ball off to Kunde. And here's the major difference that I saw. He continued his run all the way to the front to be an extra option, because we did see Rafinha kind of play behind Robert Lewandowski. So this build-up play for me was just immaculate, and it's great tactics and it's great movement, which is going to be a huge problem for teams coming up in the season. If we can do this like we did it in preseason, it's going to be a huge problem. Here we see the build-up phase. You can see Bernal is very, very close to where the ball is at the fullback, and that young left wing is actually out of picture, right? But look how Casado can really receive the ball and nobody's pressing him. I made a mistake. Rafael Leao was off the pitch at this point. I know you guys like to get in your feelings when I don't get something right, but anyways, continue. He lays the ball off to Jules Koundé, but look how he's continuing his run. So that actually pushes Rafinha up a little bit higher too, and Rafinha in this case actually went over wide to the right wing, so you can see Casado actually end up getting the ball from Jules Koundé. So this is just immaculate from these kids, and this is why we played better in the second half. Another difference that I saw was in the second half, the inverted winger, right? But what is interesting to me is the fact that because these guys are so fluid, that actually makes the opposition defend extremely narrow, try to block them off, but you're not gonna be able to stop these guys, because then they would just drop in there, right? Which ultimately draw these guys into a press. This is when this guy actually come into the half space, and then you can see the ball circulation going around. But nowadays you see, because of the verticality, they're actually encouraged to find him in that half space. But now look, if you would pass the ball to the left back, then the left back has to come forward. But now you can see that while the ball is traveling, you now have a 2 against 1 in that situation right there, which is absolutely crazy, the verticality that Hansi Flick has brought to this Barcelona team, right? If the winger doesn't invert, you see that it's actually Robert Lewandowski that can also receive the ball in this area right here, and then Rafinha can just go straight through. So really good differences. Look how narrow AC Milan is defending right here, but I can say with confidence we won't be having a static double pivot. They will drop between center back and left back or right back if they need to get on the ball, right? So I'm really excited about that. But look at how the left winger is just in behind their right winger, right? So that means he cannot really join the press. So look what happens if he does join the press. Now our left winger can find the ball in the space, and I'm really excited to see who's this gonna be. Maybe it's gonna be Rafinha, maybe Ferran Torres, right? Look, depending on what you think or who's best for it, and then you can immediately now attack with the ball. So now you have a 2-on-1 against that right back over there, right? And look how Lewandowski can also be the one dropping into the space. I can admit that's a great tactic, but the question is, do I want Robert Lewandowski to be the one to drop over there, right? If you watch up until this point, please tell me, what do you think about this guy right here, Pablo Torre? Does he deserve a spot in this Barcelona squad? Because he has proved himself all over again this season, especially in the preseason last year and this year, right? And also, let's say the board says you can keep 4 youngsters in the squad. Who would those 4 youngsters be? Let me know your comments down below. Who do you think should stay in this Barcelona squad? Who deserves a spot? As always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to go bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content, only tactical content regarding FC Barcelona. See you in the next video.